Hey Dina, just a quick look at your I guess this would kind of be considered assignment three of last week, but of your draft. Um, you know what? Do me a favor and just post this in assignment three of last week, and then we can say that we have something in it. I think this is coming along well from the last time that we saw it in the color studies. I think you're doing a much better job dealing with the ground plane now than I think you were before. And I think, overall, it's just clearer to me in terms of kind of what's going on. There's less mark making that's distracting, and I think you're doing a better job of dealing with the textures and things like that, which you should. I think the last assignment was just kind of a quick one. And this one is, a little bit more involved. You've got some really nice textures. I like the camouflage a lot, which I thought you did an excellent job of. I think the deer are coming along really nicely as well. The trees feel pretty good overall. And I thought you did a great job with the grass and the leaves on the ground plane. I actually don't think you need to go in too much more with any more leaves. I think it feels good to me. You could go in with a little bit more of this, like little scrub brush every once in a while, especially in the foreground. I think you could benefit. Don't make it a habit because you don't want it to feel too generalized. But I think if you've got like these little clusters of like crabgrass or whatever growing every once in a while, it's not going to look like you're trying to do an overall texture. It's just going to be isolated little brush, which is good. I would like to see more being dealt with for the lighting. You've got the shadows in place, which is good, and the hut itself feels like it's got a light, a medium, and a dark side. But the trees don't really feel like they have any kind of lighting situation in place, and we should be seeing some lighter values on some of these areas of the tree where it's getting hit with, light. I think that the deer themselves are looking good, but I think some of them could be developed a little more in terms of the color that's being introduced into them. And I think in some cases you might need to separate from the background a little bit more. This might require just a small amount of outlining in some areas. Maybe, you can kind of almost pass it off as a little bit of a shadow in some of these areas where it's dark from the shadow and dark from the fur. I think could help. And getting a little bit of shading in the antlers and things like you are with this guy, but more consistently on this guy could be helpful. There's kind of little minor things. I'd like to see this guy be a little bit more integrated into the background so that he fits amidst all this stuff back here right now, because it's so bright and stands out so much. He kind of looks like a miniature deer that's standing on top of the camper or of the hunter's nest, and I think you need to do something to get him to settle back into the background. The easiest thing would to go over with a really quick layer of one of the colors that you're using back here, so maybe the yellow or the orange, and just do a very, very light coat of him. You don't want to obscure the detail work that you have in place, but you do want him to have some of what's going on back here incorporated into him so that he fits within that scene. I think if there's other details and things that you want to introduce, but I think by all means do so. I'd like to see the hut just slightly improved a little bit more, in that I think the door could use a little bit more definition, so that it separates a little bit better. I think you could get some just very slight cast shadow changes to occur where it's very, very dark here, and then it gets lighter as it moves away from the hut. I don't think too much. I think just getting it a little bit darker closer to the hut so that it separates from the grass a little bit more, and then just kind of lightening off very quickly could help. You might be able to do that with the trees too, to help with the contrast, to help things along. But a lot of this stuff is kind of minor things. I just kind of want to be able to see some of these small changes being made to help with contrast, visual interest, and more than anything to help separate elements from each other, because there's a lot of browns and greens. Things have a tendency to mix together, so I think it'll help. But it's really coming along well. I thought you solved this problem, I think, fairly well, and just